Welcome to Know Your Money. I'm your host, Bronwyn Wayner. With me is Craig Finch, my business partner from Growth Financial Planning. Joining us today and every day is our sound engineer, Warren Grimsley. In our podcast, we will explore our relationship with money and how the psychology of it impacts our financial decisions, as everyone thinks about money differently. We will be presenting a variety of financial topics in an easy-to-understand way, which we hope will assist you in managing your money. Welcome to Know Your Money. Today we are going to be talking about Ponzi schemes and just getting an understanding of them. Warren, Craig, how are you guys today?
Warren, nice to see you. Bron, always nice to see you.
Always a pleasure, guys. Great to see you. So Ponzi schemes, fraud.
Absolutely. What was his name?
Charles Ponzi.
It's greed as well.
Yeah, he was, what was it? We looked it up a minute ago, 1920s.
In the 1920s, yes.
Yeah.
Craig, do you want to head this one?
Well, I think, if you look back in 1920 was maybe the well-recorded one when they put a name on it. But I'm sure it happened before that, and it's definitely going to happen again. There's been some huge Ponzi schemes around the world. There was in South Africa, there was one around milk. There's been around the cure for HIV, drugs and that, mentioning no names. Yeah. And there was a big one in New York where one of the very respected investors who ran the NASDAQ ran a Ponzi scheme. He ran a legitimate company, but on the side he ran this Ponzi scheme. And over many decades...
Is that Madoff?
That's Madoff, yeah.
Ah.
And what is a Ponzi scheme?
Okay, so this chap, he enticed investors with unreal returns. So what happened was people put money with him. He promised a 12% return. You got a statement from him showing you had 12%. And then you might have had an investment somewhere else at one of the big mutual funds in the US. And you used to say, well, but my word, in 2008 it dropped around September the 11th. But old Madoff's fund did 12% consistently across all those disasters. So clients rather cashed out their other mutual funds with other big institutions because they thought, no, well, if Madoff is making me 12%, I'd rather keep that one. But what he did was he didn't even invest 1 cent of that money. That money all went into a bank account, and all he did was top up the next amount of money. So people were receiving 12%, withdrawing the odd time, but as they withdrew, they needed to top up at the end. So he was living off that money. Quite a nice life in New York. He had a yacht, he had a couple of homes. Is
this like robbing Peter to pay Paul, or
exactly.
What's the saying? Yeah.
So as people were drawing money out, he had to fill the bucket at the back end, and he was filling that up with other people's money and other promises of 12%. He enticed over, I think it was 3 decades, 21 billion rand. He received $21 billion, dollars, and the perceived return of that and the loss of the return that he said went over $60 billion. So it's people's greed that they said, okay, well, I can get more money with this scheme and it's unreal. So the one in South Africa as well recently was around HIV and AIDS. They said that there's a cure for this, a drug, but they need funding for it. So I said, well, if there's such a good return or a need for this, obviously there's a good need for HIV drug. Why doesn't the World Bank fund it? And no, you can fund it and you're going to get...
Or a big pharmaceutical, if they can make money from it, why wouldn't they?
Yeah. So the little investors were enticed to put money in this, and the returns were
But how do
ridiculous.
they get away with it, like, legally? Like, do they have to register the company or...
No registration, all clandestine. Oh, I'll get you in. It's a closed club. Don't tell anybody, but if I get you in, you're going to get 120% return.
So I think what you're basically saying, the warning sign is actually check that it is a legit company,
do
right?
Some research before you give everyone your money.
Yeah.
And if it sounds too good to be true, it definitely is. Because if the big institutions, the investment companies we deal with, they are almost impossible to give you 120% return. But because you think, oh, there must be a way, nobody else has seen this way, and this company has, let me give them my money. And it's just greed in the end of the day. And that greed leads to losing all your money.
I think there's also an aspect of fear, fear of missing out. You hear about other people who are doing it and are getting the returns because the scheme is still working. So
Yes.
then you... Yeah.
And then also, if with Madoff, if you questioned him, he gave your money back and said, "Don't come, you're out the club now." So that was also more of a mystery. So you told your friends, "Whoa, I shouldn't have said that because now I'm out the club."
Okay.
And then to entice you back in the club, you got all your money, and you still continue to get in 12% on an absolute lie. The same was as drugs in South Africa was an absolute lie, and those people left for Australia and were never prosecuted. Very
So I
sadly.
think if you were going to tell this to someone, what would you say are the warning signs, or how do you advise people to
So-
check it?
So,
you
Bron,
know?
as soon as they come with an unrealistic return,
So what is unrealistic?
well, let's say a fund will do 10% per annum, 12% per annum. Sometimes in a very, very good year, you might get upwards of in the late teens. But if somebody says to you, you can get 100% return on your money in a short space of time, you know that's not true.
Okay.
You just got to look
And
at
like a 50% return, and
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you don't think it's something niggles in your stomach, it's not right. Ask your financial planner. Make sure that you get the documents from where they say that's going. Make sure it's a legitimate company that's registered before you give them any of your money.
absolutely. And I think one of the points you were kind of saying there is, if they are saying a specific return, like 50%, 10%, 30%, you're not necessarily going to get a set return on other things. So really check that when someone says
Yes,
that. Is that right?
100% right, yeah.
Yeah, so stay away from anyone who says guaranteed.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. 100%. But Ponzi it'll carry on. I mean, they said after they locked Madoff up, I mean, will this happen again? And it'll definitely happen again. It's happening
I'm
somewhere
sure it's happening
now.
somewhere, yeah.
In South Africa as well, somebody's conning somebody to give them money at a higher return, and they'll start getting that return initially, but it'll run out because they've just spent your capital.
Yeah.
And in the back end, they just spent all your money.
Yeah, and that's also the thing is, some people get in and then they luckily get out and they did make some money. So you might be one of the lucky ones, and that's okay. But
Not worth the chance, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We just want you to be okay.
Those ones that made money in the South African one around HIV, the SARS got hold of them and they were up for inspection by SARS. So be careful.
Awesome. So take
Because
homes.
then what, SARS probably think like they were in on it, or...
No, so SARS wanted their profit. You made a profit, you didn't pay SARS.
so it was just tax, okay.
You've got to pay SARS tax. And then you haven't paid your tax. There's penalties and there's prosecution.
So it's a whole world of pain.
Absolutely. So take homes is check it first. Do your
Do that again.
I can't.
Yeah.
Check it first.
And if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Make sure you don't go get caught in this.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Thanks,
Measure your
guys.
emotions, guys. Fear and greed.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe or visit our website, www.growthfp.co.za. The information we have provided in this podcast is our personal opinion. For more detailed information, please discuss your financial situation with a financial planner.